Hello and welcome to all the men and women of the West. I'm Joe here from my co-host Dan.
Hello and greetings.
And we're going to make it quickly through a bunch of chapters, about 70 pages. The first little bit of which is mostly dealing with battle and then the journey and whatnot. Turns out Magus doesn't exactly trust our Ergothian friend, and Huma ends up going further south towards mountains, where there's a Solamnic stronghold. But not far from the stronghold, he runs into a nymph who enchants Magus into sleep, and she starts flirting with both Huma and Buoron, who Buoron is the Solamnic knight who's apparently courting this nymph. And that's a pretty screwed up relationship right there, because honestly, her problem is that how do I put it? She's fickle. And the way her mind works is very different from that of a human being's. She honestly cannot fully understand human beings' fidelity she likes to have a harem, but I don't think she much cares if the guy goes for another woman. I don't think she likes that. But on the other hand, she wants to drag men into the bottom of the sea and they'll probably drown. So the problem is she's basically a siren. Buoron, though, is a little smarter than her. And I actually find him likable. And in chapter 13, he has an interesting interaction with her where he says, "Leave us now. Will you not fight? He is one of my comrades. I will not fight him." "Oh, will you fight the mage?" "Mage?" And you have Huma. "She's put him under." "Why?" "I do not like him. He is one of the dreamers I showed you." "Is he now? Which one?" "The one who keeps dying." And you have Buoron, who just says, "Release him. Do you not want to sit with me?" And she's flirting there. And basically, sit with me is apparently a euphemism. And Buoron is basically telling her no, and she's angry because she's not getting lucky. At which point she tells him, "I do not like you anymore. I no longer want you to come visit me." At which point, shortly thereafter, a few pages later, let me check this out. She pokes her head back up in order to receive a gift from Buoron, who brought her a sculpture. She obviously is not able to keep him on the couch for long. But on the other hand, there is a romantic element here to their interaction. That said, of course, Magus is a total jerk, and Kaz ended up in trouble, and of course is on trial. At which point, Huma has to stick his neck out for him, because why not? And the trouble is that Kaz is, to accompany him. But Kaz doesn't really have much of a role in these chapters, if we're being honest. And the trouble is, neither does Magus once Huma enters the mountains. At least for a brief time. He doesn't have much of a role. Huma has to clash with Wyrmfather, and Wyrmfather is more nefarious as a villain, as someone who kind of whispers like the serpent in the Garden of Eden, than he is as a actual menacing giant dragon. And when I say giant, I do mean dragon. This guy is obviously of a size to make, for our viewers who might be familiar with our Storyfire videos, probably much larger than the Bloody August, much larger than probably Smaug, and probably almost the size of Engalagan the Black. And my view is that Wyrmfather, though, is partially insane, because the hammering of the smith in the room next to him is kind of driven him bonkers. And he's blind, so the trouble is his hearing is enhanced and he keeps hearing the hammering. But as he's evil and worships Takesis, we're not supposed to have much sympathy for him. And why would you? That said, Huma has to come along to report to the Knights of Salamnia in the end. And that's where we leave things off in chapter 17. And from there, just to make sure people know where we're at, we'll be probably covering a good 70 pages or so. Again, and we're going to do it in 70 page marks. And then we'll just end the book. So I'm hoping that we might have 2 episodes that drop next week, and we're gonna then end we'll be ending this just as soon as Dragon Month starts.
Perfect.
Yeah. So for those who don't know, Dragon Month is an event on this channel that we invented, and the idea is to celebrate dragons and dragon stories. So this falls in perfectly with that. That aside, these were pretty interesting chapters. I like the Wyrmfather thing. A clash between Huma and Wyrmfather, who tries to tempt him. I like the bit with Bjorn, but the trial with Kaz kind of, and having to talk more characters out of killing Kaz is starting to get a little tiresome, but I do understand that this is important to the lore. That aside, I'm also... The last chapter with Huma reporting in isn't the most interesting. But how did you take these chapters? Which set of, I guess, I don't want to say storylines, but plot points do you like the most? The Nymph and Buren, the Wyrmfather bit, or the bit about reporting in and whatnot, or Kaz?
I much preferred the Nymph.
Okay.
The whimsicalness, characterization.
She's different. She's not what you normally get in Dragonlance. And it brings in a ethereal, almost eldritch element into this, where she's nothing like other creatures. She's probably from a time long before most mortals existed in Krynn. Likely she's someone who predates everything except the dragons. And it's possible she even predates the first dragons. So she's a very interesting character. I like Bjorn as a character. I do like him. And we're going to see more of him in the next about 100 pages or so, which hopefully,
It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So we'll see you all next time. And don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button, as though you were Huma taking out Takesis. And also go check out our Substack and do the same over there if you enjoy our content.